Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. South Korea will mobilize all available resources to ensure swift rescue operations and manage the aftermath of the deadliest air accident ever in the country. The National Fire Agency said at least 179 people were killed when Jeju Air Flight 7C-2216 was arriving from the Thai capital of Bangkok. It landed without wheels, veered off the runway, and erupted in a fireball as it slammed into a wall at South Korea's Muan International Airport on Sunday. South Korea's acting president Choi Sang-mok declared the area of a deadly plane crash as a special disaster zone. Choi held an emergency meeting in Seoul after he visited the accident area and offered condolences to family members of the victims and said the government will provide all necessary support for recovery efforts. The Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport apologized and expressed condolences to the victims' families and the public. He added that the government will thoroughly investigate the cause of the incident.
The aircraft was completely destroyed. There were a total of 181 people on board, including 175 passengers, among whom were 2 Thai nationals, and 6 crew members. As the minister responsible for overseeing aviation administration, I extend my deepest apologies and condolences to the bereaved families and the public.
I offer my deepest condolences to those who tragically lost their lives. I also feel deeply sorry and would want to comfort the families who are left behind. As the acting head of the government responsible for the safety and lives of our residents, I feel an indescribable sorrow and profound regret. The government will declare Muan County in Jeju a special disaster zone and provide all necessary support for recovery efforts, assistance to families who lost their loved ones, and treatment for the injured people.
That was Choi, acting president of South Korea. U.S. President Joe Biden said the United States is prepared to provide any necessary assistance to South Korea after the crash. Under global aviation rules, South Korea will lead a civil investigation into the crash and automatically involve the National Transportation Safety Board in the U.S., where the plane was designed and built. The CEO of South Korean airline Jeju Air apologized to the victims of the plane crash at South Korea's Muan International Airport. CEO Kim Bae said the cause of the crash was still unknown, but the aircraft had no record of accidents and there were no early signs of malfunction. Kim said the airline will cooperate with investigators and make supporting the bereaved its top priority.
사고로 인해서 유명을 달리하신
I would like to express my deepest condolences and apologies to the passengers who have passed away due to this accident and their family members. Jeju Air will make every effort to resolve the situation quickly and support the family members of the passengers. In addition, we will do our best to find out the cause of the accident with the government. We have serviced this aircraft in accordance with the maintenance program, and there was no sign of anything unusual with this plane.
Still in South Korea, and just hours before, Parliament impeached acting President Han Duck-soo following his decision not to appoint 3 justices to the Constitutional Court bench. The Constitutional Court is currently reviewing President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment case. The impeachment of Prime Minister Han, who has been acting president since Yoon himself was impeached on December 14 for declaring martial law on December 3rd, has thrown South Korea's once vibrant democratic success story into uncharted territory. The motion, led by opposition parties, passed with 192 of 300 votes amid rowdy scenes by ruling People Power Party members who surrounded the speaker's podium while chanting that the vote was invalid and that Parliament had committed tyranny. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok, who assumed the position of acting president while the cases of Yoon and Han are considered by the Constitutional Court, may also face removal if he too clashes with the opposition parties. South Korea will face more internal and external crises after the country's parliament voted to impeach acting President Han. A South Korean political analyst said the country faces more crises after recent developments, the unexpected imposition of martial law, and the ensuing political upheaval sent shockwaves through South Korea's Asia's fourth largest economy, and drew concerns from allies in the U.S. and Europe, who had seen Yoon as a key partner in efforts to counter China, Russia, and North Korea. Han's sudden ouster adds to the uncertainty, and Choi may also face removal, clashing with the opposition-led parliament.
가 지금 상당히 추락을 했어요. 윤 대통령 때문에. 그런데 지금 그
South Korea's external credibility has already fallen considerably due to President Yoon. Acting President Han Duck-soo came out and was able to restore the credibility a little bit, but the impeachment this time caused South Korean credibility to fall even further. The United States has expressed its support to Choi Sang-mok, the Deputy Prime Minister, Acting President, Acting Prime Minister, and Minister of Strategy and Finance, and his circumstances. But how the market sees this is more important than the government's stance. In my view, the current situation is not something that the market sees as a positive sign. The wife of the late Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe went to the US and met with Trump, but for South Korea, only Shinseki Group Chairman Chung Yong-jin has met with Trump so far. This is a very serious problem right now. Just looking at this one thing shows how the series of impeachments is affecting South Korea's preparation for the upcoming Trump administration. In fact, the government will be paralyzed. I think that could not only affect South Korean citizens, but also lead to a bigger crisis than the IMF financial crisis. In my view, President Yoon provided the beginning of the crisis, but I think the Democratic Party's main opposition party responsibility in the course of the crisis is becoming impossible to ignore.
Meanwhile, in the United States, the Treasury Department may need to take extraordinary measures by as early as January 14 to prevent the country from defaulting on its own debt. That's coming from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who, in a letter seen by Bloomberg, urged lawmakers in the U.S. Congress to act to protect the full faith and credit of the United States. U.S. debt is expected to decrease by about $54 billion on January 2nd due to a scheduled redemption of non-marketable securities held by a federal trust fund associated with Medicare payments. Under a 2023 budget deal, Congress suspended the debt ceiling until January 1st, 2025. The U.S. Treasury will be able to pay its bills for several more months, but Congress will have to address the issue at some point next year. Failure to act could prevent the Treasury from paying its debts. A U.S. debt default would likely have severe economic consequences. Finland seized Russian oil tanker Eagle S. On suspicion, the vessel had caused damage to subsea power and data cables. Finnish investigators believe the Cook Island registered vessel may have caused the damage by dragging its anchor along the seabed, one of several such incidents in recent years. Finnish police said on Friday that they were investigating the Eagle S on suspicion of aggravated criminal mischief and that crew members had been interrogated. Finland's border guard will help the investigation with seabed inspections. And the police said Finland's customs service has said it believes the ship is part of a so-called shadow fleet of aging tankers that seek to evade sanctions on the sale of Russian oil. Baltic Sea nations are on high alert for acts of sabotage after a string of outages of power cables, telecom links, and gas pipelines since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, although subsea equipment is also subject to malfunction and accidents.
The Finnish government and Finnish authorities have been dealing with an incident in the Baltic Sea whereby 4 cables have been broken. We were able to get the situation under control and locate the ship in question, bring it to Finnish waters, and begin a criminal proceeding. There have been substantial damage through the cables, we've got the situation under control, and we have to continue work together vigilantly to make sure that our critical infrastructure is not damaged by outsiders. It's too soon to draw conclusions yet why this happened. We know who did it.
The Kremlin said Finland's boarding of a ship carrying Russian oil on suspicion the vessel caused an outage on the S-Link 2 undersea power cable was a very narrow-profile issue and hardly the prerogative of the Russian presidential administration. The World Health Organization is sounding the alarm on the global resurgence of cholera, declaring it a major emergency that necessitates immediate action. In 2022, 44 countries reported cholera cases, a 25% increase from the 35 countries in 2021. This upward trend continued into last year. Recent outbreaks have been more deadly, with cases fatality rates reaching their highest level in over a decade. WHO spokeswoman Margaret Harris said after decades of progress in controlling cholera, the number of cases is on the rise once again, even in countries that had not seen the disease in years. She attributed the resurgence of the disease to limited resources marked by inadequate water and sanitation systems in countries dealing with conflict. Harris said vaccination campaigns and improved water and sanitation systems are needed to bring down the incidence of cholera.
In fact, it's a major emergency globally. We classify the global resurgence of cholera that we have been seeing since 2021 as a grade 3 emergency in January 2023, which is our highest internal level for emergencies. And this is due to widespread outbreaks, but also, and this is the real problem, and this is why it's come back, resource limitations. Countries are dealing with conflict, but they've got poor water and sanitation systems. They've got many people who are displaced, but they simply lack the means to prevent it and also to treat it. Now, the vaccines can help people not to have this as severe an illness, but there's only one little tool. The main thing is really getting your water and sanitation systems, helping people understand how they get cholera, how to stop it, and really knowing where it is and taking action quickly to break the transmission, the infection from person to person.
Finally, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of 100. The Carter Center made the announcement. Carter, who was a Democrat, served as president from 1977 to 1981. His presidency was marked by significant economic challenges, but his initiatives in deregulation, such as in airlines, trucking, and railroad, in energy policy, and efforts to control inflation have had enduring effects on the U.S. economy. Up next, how one food and beverage company plans to redefine convenience and affordability for Filipino consumers. Stay with us on the Bilyonaryo News channel and follow the money.
At BNC, 12 noon doesn't mean break. But
good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, staunch Duterte ally Salvador Panelo believes Vice President Sara Duterte will be impeached. United Nations hailing the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Australia officially banning children under 16 from social media. And those are the news this hour. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News channel.
Welcome back to Follow the Money. 2024 has been a transformative year for many businesses in the food and beverage sector, especially with mergers and acquisitions. One such company has been Frutas Holdings. From Mangboks Lechon Manok to legacy brand exclusive distribution rights in Cebu and Zamboanga, Frutas is now a key player in the Philippines' growing food retail industry. Today we'll explore how these expansions impact businesses, consumers, and even the hospitality sector. Joining us is Calvin Chua, Chief Financial Advisor of Frutas Holdings, to talk about what these moves mean for businesses, personal budgets, and the broader economy. Calvin, a pleasure to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Raine.
Thank you so much for joining us. Frutas Holdings, of course, has been on an expansion spree this year with acquisitions like Mang Bok Leche Manok and Legacy Brand Distribution. Can you share with us how these moves fit into Frutas's Holdings' long-term strategy and what consumers and businesses can expect next?
So since our IPO, we've actually had this aim of having a Frutas product in each Filipino household. So all of these moves are geared towards that. We started, well, one of the key acquisitions that we did was Balay Pandesal, which tried to cater to the breakfast needs of the Filipino. And then we are slowly expanding our food offerings, which would complement our beverage offerings as well.
Right. Well, of course, the Philippine food and beverage industry has been growing 8% year on year this year so far, driven by demand for convenient dining options. How is your company capitalizing on this trend, and do you foresee any challenges sustaining this momentum?
So I think the Philippines is still at the verge of really the fast growth phase. Our GDP per capita is still below $4,000. We are in the sweet spot in terms of our young population. So we are actually picking up all the tools, all the ingredients for us to be able to capitalize on that. In terms of challenges, of course, there's geopolitical tension, which may lead to imported inflation. And of course, with increasing costs, we don't know how that will affect consumer demand and the bottom line as well.
Understood. You mentioned inflation already, of course, with the rising cost of food and production hovering at about 3.2% as of last month. Are there pricing strategies that you're using to balance profitability and affordability for consumers?
So it's very selective. We gauge which products are actually catering to the upper end of the sector and those who are able to afford higher prices. At the same time, we are trying to maximize productivity so that we don't have to pass on any cost increases to our customers. So our motto has always been providing value for money products to the Filipino. So as much as possible, we don't want to increase that much every year.
Understood. Now, earlier we actually saw a report from the PSE saying that they're expecting that the upcoming second presidency of Donald Trump would affect the economic landscape, not just around the world, but of course here as well. Would you agree with that assertion? And what would you say might be the top economic, national or local otherwise, that might affect business or your industry?
Yeah, I think what people see in terms of a Trump presidency is that he will impose pro-US policies, which includes imposing tariffs on products from multiple countries, right? So Philippines is not necessarily an export-dependent country, but it may be viewed as Asia as a whole. So therefore, in terms of investment options, Philippines might not be as favored as before. No? But you would note that during the earlier Trump presidency, even if he did the same policies. He implemented the same policies. There was even a rally for Philippine stocks. Now, in terms of actual performance for companies, I think it would be from a company to company basis. As long as each company, or as long as your company performs and delivers to its stakeholders, I think it should be fine.
All right, and we're actually showing your company performance right now, and we also noted that revenues for you have grown, as well as your net income. Where do you see what's your forecast or outlook for your revenues and income in the coming months, coming year even?
So we actually had a 19% revenue growth for Frutas Holdings in 2020. Oh well, first 9 months of 2024. We hope to sustain that until the end of the year. We think 2025 would be even a better year with the acquisitions that we've had and integrating them into our system. We will actually push in several fronts. Lingnam, we think, still has multiple legs to grow. And of course, our beverages would grow in Visayas and Mindanao. So all in all, a very positive year next year.
Right, and the positivity, of course, coming from acquisitions. Often, though, they do bring challenges. What were some of the most difficult decisions that the company has had to face when it comes to this period of aggressive expansion? How did you address concerns from franchisees or stakeholders?
I would say the more difficult decisions actually happen before the actual acquisition. Even before the actual acquisition, we try to ensure that the integration would be easy, that it would really deliver a more complete offering for our customers. Post acquisition, of course, there are issues around putting together several commissaries, etc. So that's really the operational side where we have to make some critical decisions.
Mm-hmm. And we recently saw a report that your bakery stores have expanded rapidly in recent years, and that some observers suggest they're evolving towards a convenience store model. Is that correct? Is that a correct description? Is this a deliberate strategy? And what are the next steps in enhancing the customer experience through this approach? Do you still have gaps that you have to fill?
It is a very deliberate strategy. We think Filipinos are moving towards convenience stores as their place where they want to consume their food and beverages. One of the steps that we want to do is to really broaden our merchandise offerings. So we've had several partnerships. Bolan Hopia is one of it. We are working with several other partners to add their products into our stores. The other step would probably be incorporating meals into our offerings in Balay Pandesal. So that would really create a complete offering for our clients.
How much of your business would you say has been from online transactions, would you say, and as opposed to in-person sales? And would you say that that is key in your strategy in terms of expansion?
Now it's in the mid-teens, mid-teen percentages. We believe that online would continue to grow in the future, and we are also building up our team to be able to focus on that. Of course, Filipinos still would like to be able to go to physical locations. So it will still be a combination of physical and digital.
On that note, Calvin Chua, Chief Financial Advisor of Frutas Holdings, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Grateful. Now, Frutas Holdings demonstrates how strategic growth can create value not just for investors, but also for Filipino consumers and local businesses. A reminder of the importance of resilience and innovation in the food industry. And before we go, we'll leave you with this thought from J.C. Penney founder, American businessman James Cash Penney. Growth is never by mere chance. It is the result of forces working together. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News channel. Always on top.